we encourage our students to take risks. We teach them they shouldn't be afraid to fail. And yet, how many of us are truly comfortable risking failure in front of our students, their parents, our colleagues, and our supervisors? Today, I want to tell a story about taking a risk, trying something new and a little scary with my students at Lander Grinspoon Academy, when I decided that my students would write and perform an opera. If you happen to Google kindergarten and opera in the same search box as I did late one night, you'll discover a phenomenon known as the kindergarten opera. And the minute I saw that phrase, I thought, I want to do that. It was crazy because I had no idea what a kindergarten opera was, and I knew very little about opera at all. But what I did know was that my students loved to sing. It's how we start every single day of the school year. And so, guided by resources from the website Opera by Children, I took a leap of faith. I ceded control to the kids as they brainstormed characters, a setting, and a structured plot. I served as a catalyst and note-taker, but all the ideas were theirs. I taught the students that opera is a story told through singing. So as the plot took shape, we began brainstorming lyrics. Songs would introduce the characters and tell our story. Some songs used well-known melodies. Other songs had melodies written afterwards by talented and very generous teachers and parents in our community. Children also began creating sets and costumes. As we learned and practiced the songs, children made decisions about what size parts they wanted. I changed choral parts to solos and back again as their minds changed. The first year, and even the second year, I cautioned parents there might not actually be a performance, but with fingers crossed, I transformed our classroom into a performance space so that the kindergartners wouldn't feel intimidated by the auditorium and the stage. And after 6 weeks, we had our first opera. The Enchanted Forest is the story of a group of chipmunks trapped in the castle of an evil witch named Spiky Alice the Meanie. Jack the Wolf tells the chipmunks about a magic acorn that can set them free. Spiky Alice's bird leads the chipmunks to the acorn. The witch turns into a nice squirrel, and the free chipmunks live happily ever after. And after I read that description, my husband said, "Oh, no one would ever think kindergartners wrote that." So meet Jack the Wolf. No, sorry, meet Spiky Alice the Meanie. I chose later to add a narrator because I didn't actually think our audience would be able to follow the story without a spoken narration. You'll also see, if you see me in the bottom, you'll see that I actually start to cry.
Every time I again, I find like a magical acorn hidden deep in the enchanted forest. Jack the Wolf, who lives in the forest, comes to tell the chipmunks about the acorn.
You'll see that this is one that we wrote to a famous melody.
We are trapped in a castle, we are trapped in a castle, we are trapped in a castle in a cave. Oh no! We are trapped in a castle, we are trapped in a castle, we are trapped in a castle in a cave. Oh no!
The second opera is the story of a group of witches who are shipwrecked on a beastly island after a giant storm topples their boat. Without their magic brooms, they have no way to escape the evil beasts. Luckily, a princess finds the brooms scattered on the beach and returns them to the witches. They use their magic to return home, where, of course, they live happily ever after. And the witches love their brooms.
We are witches, do-do-do. We are witches, do-do-do. We are witches, do-do-do. And we love
This is an excerpt of the Storm Song. This was probably the hardest song. This one was the one written by our music teacher, who was like a classically trained composer, and it took a lot of rehearsals, and they totally nailed it.
storm, let me make a wild. I am the storm, fear most any child. I am the storm, I can blow a child down. I am the storm, I can flood any city or town.
We don't have time for clapping. I have 20 seconds. Okay, so every child contributed to the libretto, and every child saw some of their ideas land on the cutting room floor. And this process of brainstorming really inspired a lot of growth and also some amazing creativity. When we tried to come up with a name for the evil beasts, I asked children, what do you think of when you hear the word mean? And they came up with Haman, Antiochus, and Pharaoh, which were the villains of the Jewish holidays we'd studied that year, which were written in Hebrew on their signs. And in this last slide, you will see that the brainstorming also led us to a little Yiddish inspiration.